Well, if Donald Trump hated the jobs report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, he's really going to hate the producer price index, because that, which is usually a gut check about how the economy is going, it measures the kind of internal wholesale pricing that manufacturers to suppliers charge each other, and for services, business to business services, right? Not consumer, but the actual businesses, what they charge each other. Those rates are up the highest in 3 years with new reporting by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Wow, Donald Trump can't change out the commissioner fast enough. The new report is out. And on the good side, again, business to business, manufacturer supply goods, which is the kind of the underbelly of our economy, it's up 0.9%. And business to business services, what they charge each other, up 1.1%. The tariffs and the pricing is seeping into the water supply and showing up in the producer price index. Terrible number for Donald Trump, highest in 3 years. And of course, what's he going to do now? He already fired the commissioner. What's he going to do? Fire the 2,000 economists in this 141-year-old entity? It's not the numbers, stupid. It's your policies. Why don't you change those? I'm glad you're here. You're on Legal AF. It is Friday morning, so it must be Trump-enomics and Michael Popok. Take a moment and hit that subscribe button. All right, let's talk about wholesale inflation and what's really going on here. Now, that is not an index or a metric the way that the jobs report is about the where you can do a snapshot and see the total health of the economy. But it is a gut check about how the gears of commerce, whether they're running smoothly or they're grinding up against each other. We knew from reporting last week that the consumer price index, that's what you and I ultimately pay at the pump, in the supermarket, or wherever we buy our goods and services. We know that that number for core inflation is up 3.1%. 3.1% core inflation, meaning food and transportation, the things you need to live, basically the very rock bottom core of your debt nut every week is up 3.1%. So if you showed up at the supermarket, you're the same amount of money in your pocket from last year, same basket of goods, you're 3.1% short. Good luck. But now we're looking and getting down into the other data reports that are coming out. Now, Donald Trump doesn't like the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He knew this bad number was coming out, obviously, and have been campaigning against it. It's rigged. It's not rigged. What's rigged is your economy and your economic policy. It's rigged to benefit the ultra-rich against the poor. That's it. The Congressional Budget Office just ran the numbers on all the cuts to federal programs that people rely on, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, against the tax cuts for the wealthy. And the rich get another $13,000 to $14,000 a year in their pocket, and the poor lose $1,200 in benefits. That's the economy that matters to voters. That's the economy that matters to people. And now, as long as we're continuing along this kind of wrap up for Friday on Legal AF, mortgage rates, which Donald Trump keeps complaining, the Federal Reserve won't allow you to buy a house. They hate Americans. Why won't they lower the rates? The mortgage rates, without the Fed doing a darn thing to change the 4.25% interest rate that they charge bank to bank, which then all the other interest rates that you and I have to pay for consumer lending, for credit card debt, for home loans, for other types of loans, student loans, and all that, it's all set off of that. Mortgage rates are at 6.58%. It's the lowest that it's been in all of 2025. The market's already reacting, even without the rate cut that Donald Trump is demanding. And the rate cut that Donald Trump is demanding is ridiculous. Scott Bessent, who fancies himself as some sort of economist and Treasury Secretary and would-be Federal Reserve Chairman, he's pushing to cut the Federal Reserve rate by half. Says there's models that show it should be half of what it is now. I don't know what models he's looking at, because the Wall Street Journal did a detailed analysis of all the modeling, and actually the majority of the models say that the interest rate should be higher. It should be more like 6%, given the rise in inflation at 3.1% that they can't seem to cut in half. That's the thing that should be cut in half: inflation, not the interest rate. And it puts a lie to their argument that they need to have the Federal Reserve cut the rate in September. because without it, mortgage rates will be high. Mortgage rates are now at the lowest in 2025 because of all the external pressure. And mortgage lenders and banks are saying we better lower the interest rate, or we're not going to have a housing market left. And they're doing it on their own. And the last thing I wanted to touch on the Friday morning kind of wrap for the economics and Trump-enomics is this constant proposal and policy of Donald Trump to have the U.S. and taxpayers own a share of business and to be in private business with other businesses and to compete. Why are taxpayers being required to spend our taxpayer dollars to take a share or an equity stake or a revenue share in a company? I don't want to be in business. The U.S. should not be in business against business. I thought the purpose of MAGA and conservatism is to let business be business, right? To try to get the federal government out of the economy. I thought that's what we were watching. Why are we taking shares and stakes in companies as if we have a sovereign wealth fund? I'll talk about that in a minute. So Donald Trump just announced we might have to take a bailout or take an ownership position in Intel, the chip manufacturer. They used to bash Joe Biden for having economics and tax incentives and other incentives to promote computer chip manufacturing in America. Now Donald Trump wants to take over Intel? The only time in American history we've ever taken a stake in a company is when we had to do a bailout, like when the auto industry almost disappeared in America during the 08-09 financial crisis, and Barack Obama, in consultation with his Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, in consultation with the Federal Reserve Chairman at the time, took a look at the numbers and said, holy crap, the economy is going off a cliff. We better do something. So they took over and took shares and stakes in banks who were too big to fail, and then finally got paid back after 10 years, and in U.S. auto manufacturers to keep those from going under. You do it in an emergency. You don't do it because you're a deal maker and we want to get the American public in business. We don't, but I knew we were in trouble at the start of the administration and even in the president-elect transition period when people like Howard Lutnick were promoting a sovereign wealth fund like other countries have, which is you put together a fund of money, you channel it off like a slush fund from the Treasury, our taxpayer dollars, and you put that money into a fund to allow the country, the sovereign country, to invest in businesses. That's their pipe dream. Why? Because this government is run by business people who always have their hand out and are looking for new sources of capital. So Howard Lutnick, who's always looking for new sources of capital, when he ran Cantor Fitzgerald, was like, let's have a sovereign wealth fund. We'll put billions of dollars of our taxpayer dollars, or maybe the money coming in from the tariffs, and we'll go buy stakes in businesses. How about see, everybody's excited. How about we don't do that? How about we don't compete with American commerce and American capitalism? Why don't we let the businesses do their own thing? And if they're not stable, they should go under. That's the law of Darwinism and capitalism. Unless they're a big bank where everybody's got their money in, or a U.S. auto industry that we have to save, let it go under. If Intel can't compete with AMD and NVIDIA, let them go under. But no, think now. Let's put the pieces together. He's now promoting us taking a share, an ownership stake in Intel, the chip manufacturer. And by the way, they're a chip designer. AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, they don't really fabricate their own chips. Most of the chips are actually made in Taiwan, in South Korea. That's where chips are made. Chips are designed and the technology is here. So we're going to take a share there. Remember, just 4 months ago, we have a golden share of the Nippon Japanese takeover of U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel is not U.S. Steel, it's Nippon Steel. And we own a golden share. Donald Trump was like, well, I'm going to let the Japanese own U.S. Steel. I was like, what? And basically compete against actual American-based steel companies. But I'm going to take a golden share and make sure that we have governance rights and we're able to veto certain things, and that'll every president will be able to have. I don't want to be in business with Nippon Steel, and I don't want to be in business against American steel companies, but we are. Same thing with this new rev share that he's proposed for revenue sharing that he's proposing for NVIDIA. NVIDIA, a chip designer in America, fabricating chips in South Korea and in Taiwan. They want to get into the Chinese market. And we have export controls against high-end technology ending up with the Chinese military, helping them upgrade their military. So we don't want them to get the latest AI chip. We don't want them to get the latest Blackwell chip from NVIDIA. But Donald Trump's like, well, if you pay me a 15% toll of all your revenue, you can sell to China. So there's going to be a $3 billion payment by NVIDIA. In return, they're going to get an unlimited access to the Chinese market, selling things that undermine our national security to our Chinese enemy. And Donald Trump's like, I don't want to be in business with NVIDIA, with U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel, with Intel, or anything else this crackpot is in this crackpot mind. Because he's created a virtual sovereign fund to compete against business. And that's not what we voted for. Of course, I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but even the ones that voted for Donald Trump didn't vote for that. Look at the danger. He's gambling with house money, not his money, from the U.S. Treasury to put into businesses that could fail. And there go our investment. Thank you. Thank you, Donald Trump. Yet another brilliant, half-baked, too smart by half idea that's going to come back and hit the American voter and taxpayer and consumer in the face. I'm going to continue to follow. I got another thing I'm cooking up about one of his major cabinet members having an insider trading probe opened up against him. I'll be doing that on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here with us on Friday. We got some great new videos that'll be going up throughout the day at the intersection of law and politics, in this case in policy. And I'm Michael Popok. Take a moment, hit that free subscribe button, help us continue to grow this channel. Until my next report, this is Michael. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.